Hey, this is the second part of your notes for the week, and this is all about the Pilgrims. We're going to be looking very closely at Plymouth and Jamestown. So, these are two of the things that you should be able to do today by the time you finish this lesson. You're going to be able to contrast Jamestown and Plymouth, and you're going to explain how the Mayflower Compact was the first constitutional form of government in the Americas. What I need you to do first is you're going to pause this video and you're going to take a really good look at this painting. And as you take a look at this painting, you're going to fill out the very first page of your notes. When you do this, it's important to be as detailed as possible. One word answers aren't going to do too much for you, but good details will. Notice the light, notice what's in the background, what's in the foreground, notice who's at the table versus who's not, and the numbers of those people. Take a look at all of those things. I'm going to assume that you've paused this at this point and move on. I will link these videos to your assignment, and if you want to watch them, it'll be a little bit easier for you to hear. So, how was the Plymouth plantation different from Jamestown? Last week we talked about Jamestown. We talked about how it has that triangle shape. It was really fortified. We talked about the struggles that were going on there, right? They couldn't really get along with the natives. They weren't getting the support from the natives that they probably really needed. And there's many different reasons for that. So, that would be kind of one difference. Another thing that we need to know about this time period is that in the 1600s, religion is really important in England. All right. So there are two groups in England. They just don't agree with the Church of England, which was kind of like the national church of the of England. In the United States, we have freedom of religion. We do not have a national religion. Well, England at the time was not like that. They had a national religion. And so these two groups that didn't agree with the Church of England were Puritans and Separatists. And Puritans are people that want to clean up, they want to purify, right? The word pure is in that word Puritan. So they're trying to clean up the church. Whereas the Separatists, they're saying, this is too far gone. We want nothing to do with it. We need to go ahead and create a whole new church. So another name for these separatists is pilgrims. And so that word pilgrim is actually someone who takes a trip for a religious reason, okay? So this group wanted to completely separate from the Church of England. And so they leave on the Mayflower and they travel over to the Americas. It's a very, long journey. They do lose people along the way. And it's men, women, and children on this journey. So they tried to land in Virginia, but like I mentioned, it was a very difficult journey and there were storms over the Atlantic. They were actually blown north into Massachusetts. So from there, they're welcomed by local people. They had a very different experience. We talked about with Jamestown, excuse me. Jamestown, they really struggled to work with the natives. The natives didn't want to work with them unless, John Smith was there or unless Pocahontas was there. And if they weren't there, they weren't really interested in trading. So the Indians taught them some very important things. And the main is how to plant crops, trap animals, and catch fish. Basically, how to survive. All right. If you don't know how to hunt the animals that are in an area, you are not going to be able to eat. If you don't know how to plant crops or what crops grow well in that area, you're not going to do well. For example, in Kentucky, there's a lot of tobacco. I grew up in Illinois. Tobacco wouldn't grow very well in Illinois. The climate's not there for it. But what will grow really well in Illinois are soybeans and corn. Illinois is one of the top producers of corn in the United States. On the other hand, here, so they, in 1621, the Pilgrims, they invited the natives to share in this harvest of a 3-day feast of Thanksgiving. And so some Puritans came to Massachusetts as well, and they formed what is the Massachusetts Bay Colony. When we talk about the story of Thanksgiving, where you see number 10 is a lot of the times where it answers, oh, the Pilgrims invite the natives and they come together and they have this wonderful feast. One good day does not make up for the years of forcible removal out of an area, the years of massacre, the years of war, the years of people, white settlers writing how, about white supremacy, how they were better than native people. So one good day doesn't really make up for all of that. If you are interested in the story, you need to read a little bit further. This does not mean that this was a good, happy, peaceful time for all natives and for all white settlers. There was a lot of problematic issues there as well. Again, I will link these videos. So the Mayflower Compact is often thought of as being like the first form of government in the Americas or in Northern America. And the Mayflower Compact is this document that is signed by 41 male pilgrims. Think about that for a second. It is signed by 41 male pilgrims on November 21st, 1620. Think about who is left out of this. There's nothing about women. There's nothing about the native people. There's nothing about there's no, other groups coming in. They're not trying to join with other groups at this time because there really aren't, other than the natives. So we just have 41 male pilgrims involved in this. So this Mayflower Compact, expresses four main ideas. Number one, it expresses that they have a deep faith and a belief in God. So they have this strong religious background. They depend highly on God's guidance, his divine guidance it mentions here, which was held so dear to the Pilgrim Fathers. So there is a strong correlation here between the first kind of government that's being created, the first government document, and religion. It also expresses a deep loyalty to native England and the king. So they're saying we are still English. We still care about England, but we're separate because we believe in our religion so profoundly. It expresses, number three, that there's mutual regard for one another as equals in the sight of God. So while there's only 41 men who sign this, they say we understand that we're equal among others. Kind of interesting when you think about it. Are they really equal? And they express the intent to establish just and equal laws upon which would build a truly democratic form of government, the first recorded in history. Okay, so they want equal laws. Again, think about who is signing this document. So by signing this document, these men have agreed to form a temporary government that is and be bound by its laws. So these 41 men said, this is the code that we are going to live by in Plymouth. And this compact became the basis of government in Plymouth Colony. You can still go to Plymouth. I have not been there. I hear that it is actually quite boring. I hear that it's quite literally a rock with a sign on it that says like, "Hey, this is Plymouth," and then there's some other random types of buildings and stuff that you could find. I don't know. It doesn't sound super interesting. So, what happens to the Puritans of England? The Puritans are going through a very difficult time. It says that they're suffering religious persecution, which basically just means that they are being treated poorly. They're being, treated hostilely for their religion. You can also be persecuted for other things. Maybe you're persecuted for your beliefs in government. Persecuted for we say that Jews were persecuted during World War II, during the Holocaust. So they're suffering some religious persecution. They're suffering some economic difficulties, which is why initially they want to leave England. And so in 1629, they come over on this royal charter and they start the Massachusetts Bay Colony. It's just north of Plymouth. And so over the next 10 years, more than 15,000 Puritans come to this area. So they're trying to find religious freedom and they're trying to find economic opportunities, which are a lot of the same things that the Pilgrims were looking for as well. This is going to end your notes today. If you don't have any of these, if you don't have all your answers, you need to go back and you need to